Broadcasting from deep in the Eublepharis galaxy, on a small planet called Geckonia, east of the Albino Hills and south of the raging Leucistic River, comes the one, the only Gecko Nation Radio.
Good evening, Gecko Nation. How's everybody doing tonight? Today is January 25th, 2015, and happy to be with you guys again for another episode, waiting for my co-host Tim to click on. But this week we had Ron and Lean Tremper scheduled, but they had something come up for them, so we're going to have to do that show again in the future. We're rescheduling it. Next week is Brian Barczyk. But this week, Tim and I are going to do one of our, which turned out to be successful last time. We're going to do one of our discussion nights where we're going to basically polled the people in the group for some topics, and we're going to hit on them. We also want to welcome you guys to call in tonight. The call-in number is 646-478-5331. And if you have a question and you'd like to come on live on the air, it'll ask you, press 1 to speak with the host. Press 1, and this way a little question mark will pop up next to your phone number, and I'll know that you want to come on the air. If you don't press 1, I won't put you on the air because I'll think you're just listening to the show. All right? I don't want to put you on the spot if you don't, unless you really want to come on. But let's go ahead and grab Tim. What's up, Tim? How are you tonight?
What's happening, Dave? I'm a little under the weather, but I made it.
What's the matter, man? You feeling all right?
Yeah, just, typical winter time, running around, not getting enough rest, not eating right. What about you? How are you doing?
Pretty much the same, I guess. But, yeah, same deal. We're getting ready for this snowstorm. It's supposed to be a big snowstorm in the Northeast next couple of days. We'll see what happens, I was planning on shipping some animals out, but I don't think so. What's that?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that.
I know, and it's a shame too because customers have been waiting, and of course I want to move out geckos and make room. It's the winter time is tricky. Sometimes the weather's okay, and we all get our shipping done, no problem. And other times, I remember last year there was like a 6-week period of time where the weather just wouldn't click right for shipping. So
yeah, last year was the craziest winter I remember for us up here.
Yeah, I don't want to go through that again, and I don't want to put customers through that. I mean, most customers, they always understand, of course, but it sucks. You pay for something, you're excited. They're especially if they're going to be using the animals for breeding this year, and I remember one year where I needed a particular male for one of my projects, and I forgot which breeder it was, but we just couldn't get the weather lined up right for shipping for a long time, and I wound up missing out on being able to breed that one of my females because I just didn't have the right male come in times, and her, she stopped ovulating after a while. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. They're only worth something if they arrive alive. So that's the whole point. But
and
I don't know.
It's much more important. It's much more important to get them there alive and healthy than it is to get them there sooner.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yes, we got some great feedback in the group about some topics to talk about tonight, and I think you and I can handle it just great. And also want to again welcome anybody that's listening. If they'd like to call in and weigh in on the discussion, you're welcome to. Even if you want to hang on the air with us for a while, that's fine too. The call number one more time is 646-478-5331. All right. Well, before we get started, Tim, why don't we talk a little bit about Gecko Forums? Have you been on Gecko Forums at all lately?
I cannot say that I have been.
No? Okay. Well, what is it that you like so much about Gecko Forums?
I like that everything is searchable, everything is archived and easy to find. Any information you need, actually, not extremely recently, but maybe a month or so ago, I was curious to do a little more research on supplementation, and it was very easy to go right to Gecko Forums and find the section and read a couple intelligently written posts, and get the information that I needed.
Yeah, and that's the whole key. Good information. And this is going back to 2006, folks. I mean, anything you could possibly, any question that you could pose, on social media today has been answered multiple times by multiple informed people on Gecko Forums. So I understand. I know we're all kind of addicted to social media, but Gecko Forums is still up and running and still the best place to get your information. So don't count it out and definitely try it. You could also post animals for sale and advertise if you like, and it's just a great resource that we have available to us. Before we get started into our discussion, though, Tim, I just want to mention one other thing. Herpentine Radio is our affiliate, and if you guys like what we do here on Gecko Nation Radio, you'll sure to like what Justin and JD do over at Herpentine. So check them out. Their show's also on Sundays. It's in the morning or early afternoon. And check them out. I think you'll like. They have an archive going back like 3 years, too. 3 years worth of shows. We have a year's worth of shows, so it's a lot of shows that you guys can check out. If you're bored, if you're cleaning your gecko rooms or your reptile rooms and you need something to listen to while you're doing your monotonous coop cleaning, put one of our podcasts on and check it out. A lot of good information. We put a lot into these shows, and I'm hoping that they will endure the test of time and, still be something that people will turn to in the future. So, and of course, Gecko Nation Radio would not be possible without our amazing sponsors. And I'm going to play some of them for you now, and then the rest halfway break. So check them out. And also, when you purchase from them, make sure you mention Gecko Nation Radio. They're going to take care of you. All right. Be right back, folks.
Gecko Nation Radio is a David Fine Gecko's creation and production. You can visit the show's Facebook page at Gecko Nation Radio. I also have a great family-friendly group on Facebook called Gecko Nation. Apply for membership today. Gecko Nation Radio is sponsored by Reptiles Express is the absolute best live animal shipping company with great low rates. Debbie is the queen of customer service and will make sure your precious cargo gets to where it needs to. They also have a wide array of shipping supplies from deli cups, snake bags, heat packs, and more. Visit reptilesexpress.com and become a member today. Longhorn Geckos is a father and son collaboration. Daryl and Cade Burton specialize in the best Super Tangelos, Pastel Raptors, white and yellows, and really nice wild types. Follow them on Facebook at Longhorn Geckos and on their new website coming soon. Ohio Gecko is famous for amazing tangerines, snows, and other very unique leopard gecko projects. Thad also has some incredible fat-tail morphs available from stingers to starbursts. Visit him online at ohiogecko.com and at expos in the Northeast. He is also the owner of geckoforums.net. Dale's Bearded Dragons is your one-stop source for any reptile supply products that you may need, from Exoterra, Zoomed, Rapashi, Repcal, Fluker, and much, much more, and all at 20 to 50% cheaper than your local pet store or big chain pet store. They are also the biggest reptile supply distributor at most of the Northeast expos. Contact them directly online at dalesbeardeddragons.com or message me on Facebook and I'll put you in touch with the owner.
That's right, folks. And with our sponsor, EB Dragons, they're the supplier of Julia roaches here in the United States. Use the code GECKO, all in caps, at checkout with them, and you get a standard 5% off for GNR listeners. That's just really cool. And but all of our sponsors are great. I mean, if you're going to be at any of the expos coming up, and especially on the Northeast expos, Stop by and see Dale's Bearded Dragons for your reptile supplies and feeders, and they're going to hook you up with 10% off anything you need. They got all kinds of stuff: Exoterra, heat mats, supplements, food, feeders, crickets, mealworms, anything. So definitely take advantage, folks. All right. Well, Tim, we got some good feedback tonight on some topics that we could discuss. Unfortunately, Ron and Helene had to reschedule their show. They have things going on this evening. But we'll get them back soon. They're looking forward to coming on. Just couldn't make it happen tonight, unfortunately. But, okay, let's see. I'm going to pick a question here. Let's start with Riptide Reptiles. Riptide Reptiles asks, and this is Corey. Actually, first Jamie Boyles asks, and she's in the chat room too. How about some info on record keeping and advice on how you manage all of your animals' records? I'm trying to develop a system, and with just a few breedings this year, is proving daunting as I grow. I want a system that will keep up. Thanks. All right. That's a good question. What do you do, Tim? How do you keep track of what you have going on over there?
Well, I can't say it's optimal, but I've been doing the good old Post-it notes, and this past season I probably produced about as many geckos as I've produced in a long, long time, and so I simply did Post-it notes, and I used the Geo egg containers that I could write on the lid of. And as soon as eggs were laid, I'd mark them down, and I'd transfer the information from the egg container to a Post-it note that I kept attached to the tub that the babies went into. And then from there, I transferred it to an Excel spreadsheet. Kept a quick list of the pairing, the birth information, the lay date, the hatch date, and whether I incubated it for male or female. But I have also been considering getting into some of the electronic software, but I can't say that I've really started out with it yet. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, I could talk about a little bit what I do. That electronic software I think is, I don't know, it's probably really edgy and kind of like new and all that, but for some reason I just really don't trust entering all my private information into some kind of a server or something where it could potentially be hacked or at the very least just looked at by others. That just makes me a little nervous. So I don't know if I'm ever going to do that kind of thing, but right now what I do, and I think what it boils down to, Jamie, and anybody else that's trying to find their own system, is you're going to have to find something that works for you. What I do may not work, may not jive with the way you think, and what Tim seems to have a pretty good grasp on what he's doing, so that may work great for him and not for you. You never know, but take what we're saying and see what happens. For me, I'm very fast paced, so for me to start going into spreadsheets and everything, it's not for me. I have too many animals to keep those kind of detailed records. I mean, detailed records are great, and I know exactly what all my animals are here. But to have every little single thing, it would be impossible. I literally would have to hire 2 or 3 people to keep track of all the geckos. I mean, we're talking almost up to 1,000 animals. So, I would get nothing done if I kept every little thing. So what I do is I use a Sharpie, a permanent marker. I've tried using the ones that rub off, and those things just make a mess of your tubs. Don't even bother. So what I do is I get a nice fine point Sharpie, and I get that spray stuff called Goof Off. And Goof Off removes Sharpie very easily. And I write all my important information directly on the tub. So, for instance, if I have a tub with 2 females, basically that's what I'm doing now. I'm going through all my groups and even my grow outs, and I'm deciding which ones are going to be my breeders for this year. And when I set up, for instance, when I set up a group of 2 or 3 females in a tub, I'll put exactly their hatch dates, if I have them. Some common stuff, like Max Snows and stuff, I just hatch out so many of them that I don't keep birth dates on every single one. But on the special norms and the special projects, I do. And I'll put the birth dates there, and then if this is their first year breeding, I'll keep track of how many eggs are coming out of the boxes, and I also try to calculate which females are laying when. Because I check them every week. You know, every time I go through everything, I check my females, see how they're doing, make sure nobody's getting egg bounds or any other weird things happening. And I'll just put little lines, you know, and then when I get to 4, I'll put a cross through it, make it a 5. You know, I just keep my egg, my records of how many eggs they're laying that way. So I know how old they are. I know what morph they are. I know how many eggs the females are laying. And anything else that I find important, I'll put on there too. And I try to write it very small and very neat. I believe that neatness is the key. If you start making things look messy, it'll just make your, I don't know, it's just kind of like I think organization is the key here, folks. And if you keep things neat and organized, you're going to want to spend more time there. If you make it all messy and dirty, you're not going to want to be near it. So this is a thing that requires some sophistication and some planning and some neatness, I think. So basically all my information is on the tubs itself, and I go from there. In fact, but I've also, every animal that I've purchased, except for some that I've gotten from some expos, but every single animal that I've purchased, and the majority of my cornerstone breeders are all from other top breeders out there that are, you know, have just awesome genetics. I keep those receipts and I keep those records. This way, if there's ever any question of what a line of mine comes from, I can always go back and say, well, the original animals came from Ron Tremper or Marsha McGinnis or whoever. Jamie, I'm not expecting you to be breeding on such a huge scale from what I remember. So you could basically feel free to keep track of just about everything and anything that you want. You know, because when you have a small collection, you have like up to 20 geckos. You can really fine-tune it and really keep crazy records. You could, you know, keep records of when they shed and anything else that you find important. But for a big breeder, it's not as feasible to do all that. Well, 30. She says 37. That's significant. 37 leopards this year. If they all breed this year, you could have a couple hundred next year. You know, next year to work with. So I remember when I had, you know, 37 or so. I had like 50, and then the next year I had a few hundred, and I couldn't believe it. It closed that quickly.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how far we got into it, but when we had Dr. Benson Morell on, he had done his doctorate on record keeping that the Sutherlands had done. The Sutherlands, the name of their company is the Snake Keeper, and the kind of record keeping that they were keeping was incredible. They had, in terms of their ball pythons, they had records on on mating, records on egg laying. They had the weights of the eggs, of each individual egg of the clutch, and how many slugs were there. They had, I'm not sure if Colette Sutherland also had size measurements on the eggs, but just when if you want to keep that kind of, if you had a small collection, it's not that hard to get into that kind of information, or if you are extremely organized, obviously you got to pick what works for you. But with that information, the kinds of questions that Dr. Morell was able to go back and look at was heritability traits, females that would put on good weight in between the breeding season to be ready to breed, and also produce healthy offspring that also bred quickly and ate and all kinds of things that just are almost unimaginable. But you can do it, and especially if you're just having fun and you want to keep your collection small, then here's something new that you could do with it. You know, the possibilities are endless, but it's all about the accurate and the amount of record keeping that you keep. That's kind of one of the reasons why, you know, there are a lot of unanswered questions in this industry and hobby, is because, you know, no two collections are kept exactly the same. You know, no two hobbyists keep their geckos exactly the same way as the next. So we can't really compare, you know, my geckos to Dave's geckos. But if I kept records for years and years of this intense, you know, kind, then I could go back after a few years and look at some of the trends, and it's really incredible. But basically, it really comes down to what works for you, and as Dave said, being neat and organized. You know, my way isn't exactly perfect. You know, I did end up at the end of the season with some question marks, but I was able to kind of go back and figure things out after a little bit of time. But and then the one thing I didn't add was that for myself, I just numbered my hatchlings, starting with 1 for the first hatchling, and then just continued down the line, so that you know, as I sold some geckos. Actually, I recently sold geckos at the last show, the White Plains show that I did with Dave, and a few days later, the customer emailed me and said, "Hey, I bought a gecko from you. Can you tell me the birth date?" And she told me the number that it had on its tub, and I was able to look that up for her. And then a couple of weeks later, the other gecko that she had purchased, she also contacted me about, and I was able to quickly go back to my spreadsheet, look up, you know, number 36, and gave her that information very quickly and easily.
That's cool. Yeah.
I would love if somebody's listening who has experience with Herper Pro, or do you know the name of the other one, Dave?
I don't. I looked at them briefly, and then I was like, I don't know. You know, I didn't really look into it.
Yeah, and obviously, if like, for instance, you know, I worked for a reptile breeder that kept information on the temperature in the room and the weight and approximate size of the food that they were feeding, but obviously they were feeding snakes. So, you know, a large snake that's only getting fed once a month, it's not too hard to keep track of that information. But if you've got 50 geckos, it's kind of tough to weigh the food that you're feeding to the gecko. But again, if you have a small collection and you want to, all it takes is a little Excel spreadsheet or a notebook and a pen, and, you know, and a little digital scale, and throw the mealworms on the scale before you feed them to the gecko, and then you could keep track of, you know, how fast the gecko's growing and all kinds of stuff. You could compare, you know, different bloodlines on how fast they grow. I noticed this season that my old line high yellow leopard geckos, often when they hatched out, I would put them in with a bandit, because I had a bunch of geckos hatching at different times, and I would put 2 in a tub, and it was easy to tell my line from the bandit line because of the pattern on the babies, so I wasn't going to get their identities mixed up. And I noticed a lot of times that my high yellow line was growing much faster than the bandits, and so I had to kind of size sort them because of that. But again, I don't have any scientific proof because I didn't keep records on it. But if you wanted to, that's something you could do. One thing I'd recommend, if anybody really wants to look further into this, there are, you know, plenty of breeders on YouTube that have done, you know, that have shown, you know, the way that they keep their records. You can look at the large scale breeders, even up to BHB and Brian Barczyk. He's got, little note cards on all those corn snakes that he's got, those hundreds of thousands of snakes that he has, and he's got a system that works and that he uses and is able to and collect that much data.
Yeah, that's the way to go. I mean, I guess basically do as much as you'd like. When you're dealing with like really expensive animals that are easy to records for, like ball pythons and whatnot. And to calculate. All right, well, he ate one small rat pup. The rat pup weighed such and such, and on this date, and stuff like that. It's a lot easier to do. Yes, but I do also, for my leopard geckos, in addition to the hatch dates and the eggs for the males, I have their hatch date, and I also have on the tub which tubs that I put him in for breeding each year. And the thing is, with the way my records don't go too deep with some of my animals, because after 2 years, I usually pass my females on to others. I don't breed them here for more than 2 years. I know some people can breed leopard geckos 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons, whatever. Me personally, I just like to breed them for 2 years, usually because by that time I have saved a few of their offspring, and I can use their offspring for breeding. So at least it gives, some of these breeders a second chance with a customer to use or whatever. At that point, if I'm not breeding them, I really don't keep too many records on them after that. But all the breeders, I do keep records on. You can also keep records on your babies, too, how fast they're growing, like Tim said. Can weigh them every month or so. What's that, Tim?
I just wanted to add the most efficient record keeping that I've ever witnessed goes to Rico Walder. If you look up his YouTube channel, you can see that he mainly worked with green tree pythons, and he had a barcode reader, just like the cashier has at the supermarket, and he had a little barcode ID for every snake that he had. And when he went through and fed a rack of baby snakes, for instance, he would simply, scan the barcode on the snake's tub, and then scan a barcode for a pinky mouse, and in 2 clicks of the scanner, he had that information entered, and all of it was archived and readily available for him to go back and reference.
Yeah, it's a shame he passed on last year, Rico. He was doing incredible work with those green tree python. I even think he had some albinos, didn't he?
I don't believe he had. I don't believe he produced any, but I know that he did have some. Possible hets and some hets in his collection. I actually have one of his offspring, and it's just such a gorgeous snake. It's incredible, and there are plenty of his offspring spread around the world and around the country if you want to track down. And because of his awesome record keeping, it's very easy to go back and, if you're interested in green tree pythons, and find the breeder that has the records passed down from Rico. So his legacy certainly survived.
Yeah. Another thing for me going into this, I'd like to keep things as simple as I can for myself. So I try to always, especially with all my cornerstone breeding stock, I try to get all my animals from the actual source. Like, for Sunglows, I went to Marsha McGinnis. For Raptors and Emery and stuff, I went to Ron and J&G, and this way I know exactly where my lines are from. And I guess at some point in time, after I've been breeding some of these. This is a good question for you, Tim. What do you think? Whenever I put one of my extreme emerines, for instance, up for sale, I'll say this is a Ron Tremperline extreme emerine. And I've been working with them for a few seasons now. What point in time do you think it's safe to say, all right, I don't have to put Ron Tremper line anymore. It's my line, and it's just as good. I mean, what do you think?
That's up to you. If it bears a lot of resemblance to Ron Tremper's line, but you wanted to just start calling them Extreme and Marines, I would say you could do that. And then if anyone came to you and said, okay, what's the deal with this line? You could say, okay, well, the original, breeders were directly from Ron Tremper, but I've bred them for, 5, 6, or whatever generations. But I probably wouldn't call them something else until they started to take on a new look or something else changed in them.
Yeah.
For instance, I have bandits, that I got directly from Ron, and I sell them as bandits. And if anyone asks, I say, the breeders came directly from Ron.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like I was marketing one of my bell lines a while ago, and it kind of happened unintentionally. It wasn't like I was really trying to make this happen, but I have a really cool-looking male bell albino stripe here that's got these crazy circles in his stripe. It's like very, very unique. But I call him Van Gogh because he kind of looks like a Van Gogh painting. And so whenever I make my videos, I would say, these are from the Van Gogh line, or Van Gogh sired these, and so people started calling them Van Gogh bells, and I wasn't trying to market them that way, but it kind of just stuck a little bit, and but whenever I put one up for sale, I call it, from Van Gogh, sired by Van Gogh, or Van Gogh Project, something like that, because they're really cool bells, but they are similar to other jungle bells out there. But I do believe that they're just a little bit cooler. That's just my opinion. And others that are bottom, I guess, think that too, which is cool. And but I don't know. It's kind of like a gray area there, because there's a lot of people out there trying to put new names on things, and it really gets annoying after a while. I mean, I don't know. And I'm not going to be one of those people that does it all the time. But I have a couple projects that I guess became a little bit popular because they're really pretty, and the name's kind of stuck. And so I guess to each his own. I'm not going to say not to, but we've talked about it, Tim. I guess the community and will decide. And if it's something really cool, the name will stick, and it'll become a buzzword, so to speak, right? I guess that's how it'll work. And if it's something really special, everybody will forget about it anyway, right?
And obviously, if you hatch something out that's one of a kind, something extremely unique that doesn't look like anything that's come from that line before, by all means, feel free to slap a name on it. But obviously, Dave and I would recommend do some test breeding. Do some make sure you know what's in that before you go and release it, because that's what adds to the confusion and the oversaturation of names in the market when someone buys a pair of bandits from Ron and then says, oh, these are XYZ bandits because my company's XYZ, and really they're one generation away from Ron's, and they look exactly like Ron's, But if you hatch one out that looks like, which does happen on occasion, like the funky jungle bells, they were something very unique that popped out, and he knew exactly what they were, what was in them, and they didn't look like anything that had come before from that line, so he slapped a name on it, and he was off to the races.
Yeah, no, I think Mike definitely struck gold with that. That was definitely cool. Yeah, I have some of those funky jungle lines here that I'm working with, and it's definitely a unique jungle. I mean, I'll be honest though, I've seen crazy jungles from different lines, but it seems like mics are just a little bit more. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and I don't mean I'm in no way bashing any other breeders, but I see a lot of people posting about Zorro bandits and stuff, and those are just bandits from Ron's line that Designer Geckos was working on. But I mean, that's another instance where the marketing name kind of stuck. So I see a lot of people posting them as Zorro bandits. Well, Zorro bandit is just a bandit from Ron Tremper's line. Ron Tremper has the best bandits, and anybody who's invested in top quality bandits, that's where to get the best ones, or ones from Ron's line. And you want to try to search out breeders that have kept them pure and not mixed, bandits with other stuff, and keep them straight. There's nothing more beautiful to me than a really top quality bandit. So, what do you think, Tim?
And I feel the same way, and I respect and I appreciate the way that Designer Geckos went about that project. That he never tried to hide. He never tried to just call them Zorros. He called them Zorro Bandits, just like you said with your Van Gogh Bell project. They were, it was from a really special male that he got right from Ron. So he doesn't try to hide that or cover that up. But it's such a unique, and awesome looking bandit that he wanted to call it his own line, and he did that. And so he kept the bandit in the name so everybody knows it's a bandit, but he added the Zorro to it.
It's all marketing, folks. That's all it is. If it can, if you put another little name on it that sounds catchy, it's going to make them easier to sell. And if they're beautiful, color and pattern sells. Okay, so I don't know. Marketing is marketing, and I guess in this business, like anything else, if in order to do business, you have to market your products. Okay, and if your products are geckos, well, there's certain things that you'll learn to do over time, and it takes a certain type of person to be able to stick with this and figure it out and learn how to sell your animals. I think, and that's one of the questions we had about pricing and stuff. And, there's a lot of good questions. I think, what the show's going to turn out to be a selling type show. We'll discuss all kinds of aspects of breeding and selling your animals. I think that's a good theme for tonight. Tim, what do you think? It seems like those are questions anyway.
I could answer the breeding question. The selling question is not my forte there, Dave. You know that.
Oh, well, I'm still learning. I'm still learning myself, folks. And, when you're selling something that isn't alive, it's a lot easier. When you're selling living animals, I feel it should be done a certain way. And I'm not against big, large-scale breeding, but I also feel that, I don't know, I feel animals as a whole do better when they're bred on a smaller scale. So that's why I'm limiting what I do here. I think, more attention is given to them when you do it on a scale that's reasonable. And I don't know. Farming, factory farming of fish and stuff and cattle and stuff, those are big businesses. But I don't know if there's a place for that in the reptile world. I don't know that we have the amount of new hobbyists coming in to warrant that. Or maybe we do. I don't know. Or else these big places will be out of business. But I like doing things on a smaller scale, even though my small scale is kind of big. But I like it that way. I wouldn't want to get any bigger than I am. But let's go on to the next question we have here. Let's see.
Just to add on that, what you just said, Dave, I think it's the difference in any business in the world. You have your gourmet restaurants, and you have your fast food, quick in and out places. If you owned an organic gourmet restaurant that that the cheapest dish is $20 a plate, and the McDonald's opened up next door, I don't think you'd be too worried about losing business, because it's completely different clientele that you're catering to. The people that you sell geckos to are not the same people that that go to a big box store to purchase their breeders from. And as I've said many times before on the show, I don't think there's anything wrong with picking out a nice healthy gecko from a big box store and making it a really nice pet, or even breeding it. But to breed it and to think that you're going to get hundreds of dollars for the offspring is where I'd say that you're mistaken if that's what you're planning on doing. And not only that, but is also what's bad for our hobby. And that's why we recommend, going to these top breeders for your breeding stock, or and knowing the genetics for generations back, not just for one or two, but for breeders like Dave, you can say, hey, what else? What's in this? What's going on with this? Not just somebody that bought something, slapped a name on it, and is trying to be off to the races with the big breeders.
Yeah, I don't play around with my genetics, folks. I make sure that, everything I offer is top of the line and from the other top bloodlines, and I don't want there to be any question about my genetics ever. I've never had anybody question me about anything. I can go back and tell you exactly where everything came from, everything that I've done. And that's another thing, record keeping is great, but what if you remember it all? Like, I'll look at, I know some of my geckos, I know who their mothers and fathers are, and I'm already 4 or 5 generations into it, and I know exactly, like, my brain remembers. And if you were to say, if you were to pull out a bid number 55 and ask me what's in it, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But if I go over to bid number 55 and I look at the notes on it, and I see, and I'll remember who the father was, who the mother was, who the grandmother, who the grandfather was. This is for dozens of different projects that I have. So I don't know if that's like a unique ability or what, but I guess it's something that some of us just develop over time. I don't know. But
well, I used to be able to keep all my breeding records in my head, but when you start, producing a lot and you've got your hands full with a couple jobs and kids and a family and everything else, it's you can't go on like that forever.
Yeah, no, I know. It's different for everybody. All right, let's see. Let's check out another question. Riptide Reptiles asks, he wants to know what are your most exciting projects for this season? Start with you, Tim. What are your exciting projects that you're working on?
All right. Well, I haven't spoken about this one yet. I've mentioned it to you, but I'm going to do a quick final test breeding of my high yellow line, and they're I believe them to be completely het-free, ghoul, plain old high yellow leopard geckos. The only thing that I'm going to do this year is just test breed, just to be 100% sure, to test breed them to some Murphy patternless animals. But I think it's exciting because I know that there aren't any other lines like that out there. Steve Sykes has his, wild type Macularius that he sells, but those are a wild type. The ones that I have are basically, I had some old breeders a couple years ago that I kept a couple of their offspring from, and these were geckos that were 14 years old, and still breeding, including the female, which has passed on now. But as I said, I kept some of her offspring, so I know that this line is from when albinos were hundreds and if not thousands of dollars. So if they were het for albino, I would have known it. I've bred the line many times. I've never produced anything other than high yellow leopard geckos, and I think it would be cool to have a line like that to be able to offer to people. They're not going to be $1,000 each, But if you had something in your collection that you wanted to test breed it to, without test breeding it to a subspecies, this would be something perfect to test breed it to. So I'm really excited just to know 100%. To even I feel like I'm going to be 200% sure after a season of test breeding them to some Murphy patternless that they are completely het free, and that's how I'm going to market them and offer them for sale. How about you, Dave?
Nice.
What are you most excited about?
Oh my God, jeez, I don't know. I have so many now. It's like, what aren't I excited about? I guess this year is going to be a big year for me with certain projects. They're, some of my projects are really, they're just so beautiful. I've been working on something for a while now using emerines and red stripes and trempers, and they're basically JMG and tremper line. And I've been creating what I think looks like a tremper version of a firewater. I mean, these things are so colorful. In fact, if you put one next to a top quality firewater, some of these things look even better than the prettiest firewater you've ever seen. I mean, they got lavender and yellow and bright red orange and crazy jungle patterns, some of them, and just intense color. And I've been trying to keep that going now for about 4 seasons, 4 generations, and they're just so nice. I can't even explain to you how beautiful they're looking. So I'm really excited about, releasing some of those this year. And my other, I think, signature project this season are going to be my Gem Snow Halloween Mask Bandit crosses. This will be the 3rd generation from this group, and I keep bringing them back into each other. The best ones to the best ones, and they just keep getting better and better every year. And so between those, some really cool white and yellow combos, extreme emerines, my tremper equivalent to a firewater, which I haven't put a marketing name on it, and I don't even know if I will, but those I'm really excited about. And, I have a few just regular projects that I'm really excited about, like, my Euphaciolatus and some Afghanicas, the Pure Ghosts. I'm looking forward to more of those, and the Pure Patties that I got from Marcia, and the Golden Gate Gecko Sunglows that I'm working on. Those Golden Gate Geckos have the best line of sunglows, in my opinion, hands down. And as you know, Marcia's thinning out her collection and semi-retired. Now's the time to get them, folks. Some of us have been able to acquire some of those geckos, so we'll be able to keep her line going. I plan on keeping the Golden Gate Gecko line of sunglows going pure well into the future. That's the other good thing about them. They're not het for eclipse, so I'm thinking that'd be a good candidate to mix into the Marble Eye project. Make nice Marble Eye sunglows and other things for them. Now everybody can go do that too. I shouldn't have mentioned that, but it seems like whenever I mention it, somebody, everybody goes and does it. But it's all right. I have a few other ones I'm not going to even mention, but it's every year is more exciting than the last. So those
Dave,
are some of the projects.
Dave, the emerine red stripes you were talking about, and I'm sure those look really cool, both in the normal version and the Tremper albino version.
Not so much in the normal. In fact, you know what? The normals are very dark and ugly looking. And you know what? That's the key to making them look great in the albino form. The darker and the uglier, yes, the darker and the uglier that the normals look, the better they look in albino, because the way those colors transfer over is just astonishing. Most people breed for bright green emerines and, light colors, but that's, it doesn't always transfer into making the most colorful albino version. It's kind of like high contrast albino ball pythons. You want to make the best looking albino ball pythons, you want to use hets that are really dark, that have really dark bands, and because that transfers into really bright solid orange or yellowish orange in ball pythons. So it's kind of the same way from what I've found. And even with red stripes, like I have some raining red stripes here. The the non-albino ones, they're very drab-looking red stripes. They don't look really clean at all. But when they go in the albino form, jeez, they're just smoking. So, that's some insight to think about, folks. So if you see a really dark, emerine that isn't that great looking, and all these animals have value of some kind. And you know what? The only thing that really kind of is like a thorn in my side. Some of my other project, my Extreme Emerine project, I have the Eclipse gene in it, so I do get raptors occasionally. Now, my Extreme Emerines are, the most colorful. They're right up there with Ron's. They are from Ron's line, and they're just so bright and beautiful. But when that Eclipse gene gets mixed in there, and I produce a raptor version, they're like half the amount of orange. They're kind of like washed out looking, and it's basically a raptor that I couldn't sell for. I probably couldn't get $100 for it. But yet I know that raptor, if it's bred to an emerine or another Extreme Emerine, I know that they're going to produce killer $300, $400 Extreme Emerines. But how do you tell people that, or how do you market a gecko like that? It doesn't show it, so it's not worth it in a lot of cases. So that causes a bit of frustration for me. You ever have something like that happen?
I can't say that I have. I told you I'm not the one to ask these marketing questions too and stuff.
Well, I'm saying, what about the Eclipse gene?
I like to keep to the breeding.
Well, haven't you seen that happen with the Eclipse gene?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, some people think, make a raptor is better. In some cases, it's not. In some cases, it's better not to have that gene going on. So,
I think it's so interesting when if anybody out there listens to other radio shows, reptile-related radio shows, and you hear them talking about, the combos and basically getting as many different morphs into something, and I believe you've mentioned it on the show before, Dave, how because they're leopard geckos, produce every season, and there are so many different morphs, and we've been producing them for so long that we're kind of ahead of some of those other pieces of the industry. And so we're getting to the point of stripping everything down to the single gene animals, so that if someone wants to make something, they can take this and take that and make it. But if if you just go pick up a gecko from a show or from an unknown source, it could be het for a million different things that you don't want it to be het for.
Well, and that reminds me. You're right. Yeah. A lot of people are kind of turning back the clock, so to speak, and looking for geckos with that are selectively bred and not so much got all these genetics in it. Like, I guess a lot of people are looking for the pure strains, like the pure. Well, not the pure. When I say pure, I mean without all kinds of other genes in it, like Extreme Emerines from Ron. Those are really popular right now. Anything Extreme Emerine is like, they look good, they usually sell quickly. But then, I see a lot of people putting white and yellow into Enigmas, and I'm still not sure how I feel about that. But, to each his own, it's... I think...
Explain yourself a little bit on that, Dave. Why do you... why are you hesitant about that?
Okay. In my experience, the more genes you add to Enigmas, the worse the ES can get, just in mine and others' experiences. The white and yellow gene itself acts similarly to the Enigma gene, and to me, it's like something that should be kept separate, because, sometimes it's hard to tell if it's a white and yellow and not just an Enigma, and in my opinion, I think all of us should be limiting. I don't think we should let them go the way of the dodo, but I think we should all be limiting the projects that we use the Enigma gene in. I don't think we should let it die and go away, but I don't think it's a gene that is cutting edge anymore. I don't think it's a gene that should be in every combo, and I don't know, just because of the issues that it causes. So I didn't always feel this way, but I'm beginning to feel this way more and more about Enigmas. I don't breed a ton of them here. The ones I breed here are really good, and I'm not looking to increase my production of Enigmas. But I don't know, when you mix a white and yellow and an Enigma together, I don't know. I'm trying to have a hard way of explaining why it doesn't jive with me for some reason. I don't know. But it's not something I would do. How do you guys feel about it? You guys listening in the group, what do you guys think about mixing white and yellows and Enigmas? What do you think about it, Tim? I'm guessing you don't think there's an issue.
I honestly, I haven't even thought of it. I don't have. I have one possible white and yellow in my collection right now, and I've actually, recently come to some changes of heart of where I'm taking my collection in the future, and I don't have any Enigmas. I have worked with them, limited in the past, but it's just something I've never thought about. But as far as where I'm going with my collection, no, I wouldn't even consider as getting into that. But I think with a lot of these combinations, you really have to make them before you make a decision. Maybe you could be wrong, Dave, when that combination could be an incredible looking animal, and for whatever reason, the Enigma, the way that syndrome works, it maybe won't affect them as bad, or it won't make them any worse. I'll put it that way. And maybe they'll make some really awesome looking geckos. And and in terms of other morphs that don't have any issues like the Enigmas, you really got to make the combo before you can say, hey, that's awesome, or hey, that looks crappy. Just like you were just talking about with the emery and red striped albinos. You said the normals look kind of ugly, but the albino version is incredible, and you really don't know that till you make them. I've seen that a lot before, and I think it's what's so cool about our hobby is that the price and the affordability. If you want to do a project like that and try it out, pretty much anybody can. If you even for younger adults, you save up your allowance for a couple months, and you could probably get right into a project like that and be off to the races to something cool, and you really don't know. The possibilities are endless.
Well, maybe I'll do a couple pairings this year just on that and see what happens. I could pair a few white and yellows to Enigmas here and see what comes out.
And then you'll know,
nice ones.
And
they're don't get me wrong. I appreciate and I respect anybody working with them. I just don't know that it's something that I would like to do. But who knows? Maybe it is cool. Yeah. I mean, they look good. I've seen others produce really pretty ones.
But that's kind of my whole philosophy with pairing things like that is you really don't know until you do it, and I wouldn't want to say, oh, that'll look cool, or oh, that'll look crappy, because I'm sure I've been wrong in the past and will be wrong in the future on stuff like that. But I think it's just cool that pretty much anybody could try it. I'm sure you can go on a couple. You can go on the Gecko Forums classifieds right now and find a couple, animals. If you wanted to try out something like that, you could go right on there, and for not too much money, and without a storm coming in the near future where you live, you could have those geckos on your doorstep by the end of the week.
That's right. On that note, let's take our mid-show break. How about we talk about pricing when we come back, and we'll talk about marketing and pricing. I think that'll be a good start.
Well, that conversation will be all yours, Dave.
All right. Well, I'll tell you guys what I've discovered in my time doing this. And there's something funny that happened in the group today. Let's talk about that too. All right.
I just also like to say before we go to the break, Dave, we haven't heard from Daryl on the show in a while. Daryl, if you're listening, feel free to call in and we'll have a little chat.
You're talking about Daryl from Longhorn Geckos?
Daryl Burton.
Yeah, Daryl Burton's been missing in action. I was prepared to write his eulogy, but then he surfaced again. But no, he's I think he still listens, but he's got a lot going on right now, I think. So, yeah, we got a show coming up with him soon, next month. So we got a whole show devoted to Longhorn Geckos. So, yeah, he's got cool. Some nice stuff. All right, hang tight, folks. We'll be right back.
Gecko Nation Radio is a David's Fine Geckos creation and production. You can visit the show's Facebook page at Gecko Nation Radio. I also have a great family-friendly group on Facebook called Gecko Nation. Apply for membership today. Gecko Nation Radio is sponsored by Gecko Boa Reptiles, is your source for the highest quality leopard gecko morphs and wild types, from white and yellows to radars, amazing tremper morphs, and rare subspecies. John is a world-class breeder and extremely knowledgeable. If you're looking for something truly special in geckos, contact John Scarborough at geckoboa.com and on Facebook. Rainbow Mealworms is the largest worm grower in the world and selling to the public since 1956. If you need the highest quality mealworms, superworms, and crickets for your pets, contact them at www.rainbowmealworms.net. Ron Tremper is the biggest contributor to leopard gecko morph making, known worldwide for his amazing examples of living art. You can now download his Leopard Gecko Care app, his Morph Encyclopedia app called Leopard Gecko Pro, and visit his site, leopardgecko.com, to see where morphs are made. Supreme Gecko is a great source for crested geckos, day geckos, and other species, including microgeckos. Wally Kern is a top-notch breeder and gecko enthusiast. Visit supremegecko.com for his available animals and supplies. abdragons.com is your source for the highest quality dubia roaches. Whether you're starting a colony of your own or just need feeders for your insect-eating herps, abdragons.com can't be beat in quality or price. They are also a huge distributor of FlexWatt reptile heat tape and have very competitive pricing. Check out abdragons.com online and on Facebook.
All right, folks, we are back. And don't forget about that 5% off discount with AB Dragons. Use the code GECKO, all in caps, at checkout, okay? You're going to get 5% off every time. All right, Tim, you with me?
I am.
All right, before I do the pricing, I'm going to let's go through these questions that were posed. I'm going to make sure I get most of them. Reptiles also asks about, let's see. Another breeding season is upon us, he says. How about your practices and techniques on breeding? Do you introduce a female to male's enclosure or vice versa? Or introduce them both into a new environment? Well, that's interesting. Never considered that before. Let's start with that part. Here, what I do is I usually, these days, I used to alternate in the past. I used to either introduce the female to the male's cage or vice versa. But these days, I like to introduce the male to the female's enclosure, okay? And, this basically, I guess it feels better in a sense where, the male is entering into their domain and they basically have the power in the situation and they can either mate with him or not. And I kind of put it on them whether they want to do it. In the past, and occasionally I will put a female in with a male. If I have a lone female from a special project and I just want to, breed the one animal, I'll put her in there and usually the male will go after her right away and breed with her. And I mean, it's kind of like, she doesn't really have a choice in the matter. And if that were the case of humans, there'd be legal charges pressed. But in the case of the geckos, it's usually over and done with in 5 minutes, and you have a female that's fertilized, and there you go. So in a situation with my breeding tubs, though, I'll have 2 or 3 females, and I'll actually rotate the male through certain tubs because, one male here usually will service several different tubs. So, like in an instance with my bandits, my main breeder male bandit, his name is Stripe, and I have a row of bandit tubs that have females in it, and I'll just start at the top, and what I'll do is every few days I'll rotate them down into the next tub, down, down, down. Every time I rotate them, I have a little clip with his name tag on it that I just unclip from one tub to the next, so I always know where he is. That's the key. When you have hundreds of tubs, you want to know where your males are. All right, so that's basically what I do. Then he goes on to ask, do you reintroduce the male at any point in the female's laying cycle? In my case, because I have so many, I keep rotating the male through until I start seeing eggs being produced. Until I start making notes on the tub that this female laid so many eggs, that's when I start, not introducing the male as often. Okay, I'll take the male out at that point, put him back in his own tub, and maybe every 2 weeks I'll run him through all the tubs again, and just so I make sure that the females are still fertilized. But then there's times where I'll see a female that's laying a lot of eggs, and she looks like she's not putting the weight on as fast as the other females. In that case, I will separate that female, and she will not get paired anymore, and I'll make sure she gets enough food. And that's something that you really need to keep a close eye on. If you start noticing that your female is losing weight and laying eggs and not putting the weight fast enough back on after she lays a clutch or two, you need to pay special attention to her, because if she gets down to too low of a weight, sometimes they don't bounce back. Okay, so you got to be really attentive and keep an eye on it. And that's another reason why I limit my lay boxes or my breeder boxes to only 2 to 3 females at the most. Okay, anything more than that, if you have 4 females on there, at least one of those females is going to get bullied, and that means she's not going to get any food. She's going to lose weight, and you're going to wind up having problems, okay? So that's what I do in those cases. And then he says, let's see, do you prefer leaving a male in with a female or a group of females or just long enough for mating? Okay, well, then I pretty much answered that too. So hope that helps, Corey. Hope that helps you. All right, we have more questions too. Hot females. Troy asks about hot females. I think Ron Tremper first talked about hot females in, I think, his earliest book, and then again in his new book. There are some breeders that think that maybe, they're just, maybe it's not temperature, and maybe there are females that are just more aggressive. But hot females is something in the past that people had concerns about. Basically, females develop from eggs that are incubated at lower temperatures, 80 degrees, 82 degrees, so such like that. And you usually incubate your eggs at higher temperatures, 86, 87, 88, 89, for males. If you hatch out a female at those high temperatures, they call those hot females. But have you heard about this, Tim?
Yes, I have, and I can talk about one that I had experience with. It was actually my sister's leopard gecko that was purchased at the same time as my first leopard gecko. So I'm talking about 1992, and it was years later that I realized that something was off with this gecko. Now, whether it was something that happened, environmentally as it was being raised. I mean, this was a pet gecko that, would move with her from Florida to New York for the summer and was lost in a car for months and months at a time. But I think something was weird. It
Lost
almost
in a
had
car?
yeah, she had it in a box that was uncovered. Real smooth move, right? And she ended up losing it in the guy's car who she was carpooling with from Florida to New York, and it survived in the car for about 7 weeks in the middle of
oh my God.
June, in the middle of June during the summertime in July, and found it, and it was still alive and well. But anyway, it almost had like enigma-like syndrome. But again, I don't know if that was because it had been maybe knocked over the head too many times or whatever. But even separate from that, it did not have it had hemipenes, but it did not have the V of the preanal pores that males usually have. So initially when I looked at it, I thought it, and again, this was when I was really early on in keeping and could barely tell a male from a female, but after years of experience, I was able to tell that it was actually a male, and it didn't have the preanal pores, and I still to this day haven't seen that, and I have no idea, why it would happen, but the hemipenal bulges were kind of subtle, and so I would be keeping it with a male and wondering why everybody else in the cage is getting along, and these two were fighting, and it turned out that I had two males in a cage, and that's why they were fighting.
I think that's incredible about it surviving in the car, though. That's incredible.
Yeah, actually, that's one thing that I'm saving for a future show. Is that I've got quite a few incredible stories like that due to my hobby that I'm compiling for a future episode. And you also got to think that was now this guy was not going out of his way to do anything different, and very well in the summertime in New York, your car can easily in a parking lot get up to 130 or 140 degrees inside, parked in the sun with the windows closed, and I can't imagine it got too much food, maybe a lucky moth or something here or there, but and maybe a heavy rainstorm, maybe it was able to get a little moisture out of the carpet, but I believe it was 7 weeks it was in the car for, and one day he went and opened up the door, and there it was sitting right there out in the open, and he scooped it up and got it back to us.
So what does that have to do with a hot female? Is it hot because it got cooked in the car for 7 weeks?
No. I was just saying because I would say unrelated to that episode, it had maybe that it happens often in people's collections that they think they have a female and it actually ends up being a male, and they think, oh, it's not mating because it's a hot female, but in actuality it's a male with maybe subtle preanal pores or subtle hemipenal bulges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. That could happen too. I've never experienced the situation. I've never actually produced what I would consider a hot female or a questionable male like that, Troy. So I'm not really too keen on that. I know Ron Tremper documents that scenario in both of his books. But, I mean, obviously, I guess common sense, if you have a female that is aggressive and she's not breeding and she's fighting with other geckos, you got to separate them. And so he's saying
and that's
that
really the whole. That's really the whole point. Is you have to watch your geckos and know what's going on. If you're new to this and you're not familiar with it, if leopard geckos are fighting, and even if you don't actually witness it, but say you put two geckos together today and tomorrow you go look at them and you see that they have little white specks all over around their head area or tail area, almost like dry skin, those are actually kind of scarring and dead scales from the geckos fighting with each other and biting each other. Now it'll happen, once in a while if you have two geckos in the same cage where maybe they'll both go for the same food item or something, and and that's not really a big deal in most cases. But if you have a new introduction and you put these geckos together and you see that they're really going at it, then you really have to separate them, and maybe it's just a matter of their conditioning where the female isn't ready to breed yet, or the female is trying to get the male out of her territory. But that's when you can try other things like introducing the geckos into a neutral habitat that doesn't have either of their scents, and they can and maybe that'll work for you.
Yeah, that's something I've never tried, introducing both geckos into their own tub. And the only thing, I mean that may work. Well, the only problem I'm seeing with that is the males, they really like to mark their territory. Those preanal pores are there for a reason, and you'll notice them do like this funny, dance where they kind of drag their feet if you put them in a tub or in a tank that they're not used to. They'll immediately start scenting it, and I've noticed that when I introduce a female to a male's cage during breeding season, this is during the height of breeding season when the smell of ovulation is in the room and all the females are, everybody's active and looking for a mate. If I introduce a female into a male's tub, he is on her within 20 seconds. And usually copulation is over within a couple minutes, and I can remove the female and put her back in her own tub. And I kind of like that for its efficiency. I kind of like that because then I can also mark it in the tub. Okay, she was bred on this day at this time, and, I can sort of predict when she may start laying eggs after that. So in those cases, those work good. But, when you pair your geckos, you have to feel comfortable with how you're doing it, too. So, and maybe, putting the male in the female's tub is something you'll like. But, all right, let's move on to the next question. We got some great questions here. Thank you guys for putting effort into this. All right, let's see. Pros and cons of breeding and what to do and not to do during the breeding season. This question comes from Josh Nealon. All right, pros and cons. Wow, we could do a whole show just on that. Jeez, Josh, that's a very broad-based question. Well, Tim, what do we don't want to do during the breeding season?
Well, obviously, like we just talked about, don't put two males together.
Well, don't do that during any time of the season.
It's just a lot of common sense stuff. You gotta know your geckos. You have to pay attention to your geckos going into the breeding season. This time of year, you want to be starting to condition your geckos, and that means have your temperatures right, have your feeding schedule down.
Yep.
You want to be beefing up those females. You want to make sure that they have enough reserves to be producing eggs this season. If you have exactly, if you have a very skinny female or a very fat female, you're not going to have a very good breeding season. So there is a bit of a happy medium. I don't often in my collection run into that problem of obese females. I don't know about you, Dave.
I have a few. They breed okay. They don't breed always as good as others, but you know what it seems like though? After a couple of seasons of breeding, most females will just naturally put on weight, and it's kind of like it's hard to get them to lose weight. You don't want to starve them. In captivity, they just don't get the exercise they would normally get in nature. So we need to compensate for that, or I guess not compensate and try not to feed them all the time, every single day. A lot of people get worried if their gecko stops eating for a day or two. Don't worry about that. That's normal, especially for females during the breeding season and right before the breeding season when they start ovulating. they will usually go off feed for a few weeks. So don't get alarmed. That's one of the biggest questions that comes up during this time of the year. My female's not eating. What should I do? She's got good weight, but she's not eating. Well, 9 times out of 10, she's just about to ovulate. So and I did a video on my YouTube channel, leopard gecko ovulation and how to spot what it looks like or something like that. But just go to David's Flying Geckos, you'll find it, and type in leopard gecko ovulation.
And that's also why you want to know your females and be, feeding them at this time of year so that and then maybe that'll be the trigger that alerts you to the fact that she's ovulating when you're putting food in her bowl and she's not eating, and then you'll say, hey, what's going on with this female? And you take a closer look at her, and it turns out she's ovulating. But
right.
when you know your geckos, when you're paying attention to them, and also at the same time, you don't want a skinny gecko, and they look in the cage and she's not eating, and you say, what's going on? And it turns out, you didn't have enough weight on her, and already because she's got a male in the cage next to her, she's starting to ovulate because she's got his scent coming into her cage. So you want to be, ahead of the curve on this, and if it's time, to get some mealworms shipped, get on the phone and call up Rainbow Mealworms, and you'll get those girls fattened up.
Yep, that's right. So yeah, all right, that's cool. All right, let's
hey, what else?
Next.
That's a very deep question, Dave. Is there any other things that you can think of?
Oh my God, I could go off on a whole tangent.
Another thing is gut loading your insects. If you're breeding your own cockroaches, mealworms, whatever it is, or even just getting them in, make sure you're gut loading them before you're giving them to the geckos to get ready for a good breeding season, as well as supplementation.
Mm-hmm.
I had one baby born last year that was, it was a bit of a runt. The egg was small when she produced it. It was a female's first time breeding, and it just came out as a little runt, and it obviously had a bit of a calcium deficiency for whatever reason. I know that the female had been offered plenty of calcium, but for whatever reason, it just, something went wrong, and I had one little runt. But if to lessen those chances, you want to make sure that all your females have plenty of vitamins and calcium offered to them, and as well as the gut-loaded insects. And it's certainly the females, right, Dave, that you want to be paying a lot closer attention to in terms of food.
Absolutely.
A male
right.
that's a little bit on the skinny side usually will be all right as long as you monitor him throughout the breeding season. But the females are certainly the ones, and I've had it happen in my collection where, I didn't have enough weight on the females, and they produced 1 or 2 clutches of eggs, and that was it. And actually, that was fine with me because I'm usually so busy. I don't have enough time for if all my females bred every year to take care of all those babies. But that's something you want to be paying attention to and aware of, and be prepared for.
Something else you should be prepared for is to plan on success. Plan on your female laying a lot of eggs, okay? And, she may not if it's her first season, but plan on that so that you can figure out exactly how many babies you're going to be taking care of, and also keep it in the back of your mind that this project that I'm doing, if I get stuck with all of these babies and for some reason or not I can't sell them, will I be happy keeping them all as pets or giving them away to friends or something? So that's got to be something too, because we're going to get into a little bit about the selling part soon. But, having an idea of what you're going to be producing and being prepared to house all those babies ahead of time is the smartest thing to do. You don't want to start, incubating eggs and then wonder about what you're going to put those babies in when they hatch. Okay, you have to think ahead and have these setups ready to go. So, but you know what? I just remembered. If you have questions about breeding, we did a whole show on breeding with Marsha McGinnis, and I think that'll be the show you should listen to, Josh, because we talked a lot about a lot of different scenarios, so that'll probably help you out the most. But let's move on to the next question. Okay, just one more gecko. I like his name. Breeding for quality versus quantity. How not to add to the rescue problem. Good point. Well, this falls into the category of planning your pairings. And if you're doing a combination that is going to take years to create, or you're working with hets, you need to know the statistic, know the odds of what you're going to be producing, and know that you're going to have some byproducts, so to speak. They're going to have some normals and hets. You're not always going to hit on the morph that you want. And I encourage people that can't afford to get the full combo morph, and I encourage people to work with hets. When I first started out, I didn't have a lot of money, and I bought a lot of hets, and I produced some of my best and most special geckos from those hets. So, that is an option, but keep in mind, like I said, a lot of those geckos will be byproducts. They'll be normals. They won't be worth too much. And in today's market, there's a lot of people with those types of geckos out there. So, those geckos, unfortunately, don't sell quickly. All right? So keep that in mind. Quantity and quality. If you're anything like me, if you're serious about this, it is better to have fewer top-quality animals than a bunch of pet shop geckos, in my opinion, okay? Unless you're a person that isn't really too concerned about genetics and you see a gecko you like and it doesn't matter where it came from, you fall in love with it, and you have 20 that you fell in love with like that at pet stores. And that's fine. If that's the type of person you are, then by all means, have a blast. There's two types of gecko people out there. There's people that like all the geckos, they're not concerned with genetics, and then there's people that only want the best lines, only want to work with, select elite morphs from really good breeders. And that's the type of person I am, and a lot of the people that I associate with are like that. When you really get into this, it's all about genetics, everything, with geckos. And you could buy a gecko at a pet store that looks like an insane firewater, for instance, and you buy that gecko for $25 at that pet store, right? And there could be the same gecko that looks just as good on, say, I don't know, pick a breeder, Gecko Ball Reptiles. There could be an insane firewater on John's site for $500. All right. Now you're probably thinking, oh wow, I got the deal of a lifetime, $25. I got this gecko for. It looks just like that firewater. And you know what? That gecko may make you happy for as long as that gecko lives. To me and to people like me, that gecko is worth $25 because you know what? Number one, I don't know if it's a Tremper or if it's a Bell or a Rainwater albino. I don't know what other hets it has in it. I don't know who produced it. I don't know if it was kept in a dirty cage or it's got some disease or God knows what. And to somebody like me, it's not worth anything. And it's a beautiful gecko, and I can appreciate it for what it is, but it's not anything I'm going to bring home in my collection. So we had an interesting, we had one of our fun days in the group today. There was a disturbance in the force. Somebody that's new to geckos completely joined the Gecko Nation marketplace and looked at the prices of some of the geckos in there. We have a lot of really high-quality breeders, and their geckos posted for sale in the group. And apparently just bought a gecko for $20 at Petco or something, and she went on a rant saying that we were all scam artists. How do you get off selling this gecko for $200? It looks kind of like the one I just got for $20 at Petco, and it didn't look much like that. But anyway, but Farrah did. And, you know, when you're first starting out and you're young especially, you don't know the concept of money too well, and you don't know the concepts of how things are priced and the history, how long it took to make certain lines, and, you know, the certain bloodlines that are just coveted. You don't understand all that. This person was having a really tough time figuring it out, and some people on the thread were being supportive, but we had a few people that were, you know, resorting to name calling. So of course that thread had to be deleted. The point I'm trying to make is pricing the price of animals. Like I just said, going back to that analogy I just made about the $20 gecko that looked like a $500 firewood. I mean, this happens all the time. Okay, they're beautiful geckos. They're worth whatever you're going to pay for them to you, but to serious breeders, they're not worth anything, really. It's a different mentality. It's a different ball game when you enter into the serious side of this. I firmly believe that the Gecko Nation group is a gateway for people that start off as typical pet store buyers, and a small percentage of those people will go on to become breeders of fine elite geckos. And that, you know, we definitely encourage that. We want that. And the regular normal hobbyists are great too. So there's a place in this for both types. All right. But just one more gecko, if it's up to me, I say highest quality over any quantity, any day. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Tim? Quantity versus quality.
I agree with everything you said. You know, obviously my first leopard gecko I purchased at a pet store. Luckily, it turned out to be a very, very reputable place, and it opened the doors to this hobby for me in so many ways that literally changed my life to this day. And you know, I'm sure that isn't everybody's experience walking into an exotic reptile shop. You know, there's certainly a lot more of them now than they were back in the early 90s. Yeah, you can, however you get introduced to this is the way you get introduced to it, and some people have a better experience than others. But basically, just as Dave said, you have to be ready to place if you're going to try out breeding this year and you're starting with 10 females, and they could possibly, you know, even let's say, you know, give a low ball average of 6 eggs per female, you know, that's 60 babies, and even possibly, you know, over 100 babies that you could be producing this year. And you have to be ready to, you know, maybe wholesale those babies, or, you know, give them to friends, or even, you know, maybe you have a good friendship with your high school biology teacher, and you want to say, hey, I want to donate some to the classroom. But whatever it is, you just have to be prepared for it. And you can't expect that because you paid, you know, $800 for a pair of geckos from John Scarborough, that you're going to be able to sell those babies from that pairing for that same price, if this is your first season breeding.
Well, that's my next topic, and yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to hit on something real quick. Jamie said that she's only breeding, I think, 7 or 8 geckos. Well, just Jamie, keep that in mind. You know, 7 or 8 times 6 eggs. That's a substantial amount of babies there. Okay, so keep that in mind. But the pricing and how to resell your animals. All right, when you're first starting out, and this is something everybody out there should listen to. Tim, you're hitting the nail right on the head. But we get this all the time. I invested so much money in these geckos, and I can't sell the babies. Well, there's so much into this. There's so much you got to do in order to. First, you have to build a reputation. I'm not trying to dissuade you from investing in top quality genetics by any means. And I think if you can afford the best, you should buy the best. All right? As far as marketing and selling your animals, it took me 5 years now, over 5 years, to build my reputation to the point where I'm trusted and, people respect my animals and, they know that I'm working with good stuff. It took me 5 years to prove myself. And when I first started, I was a lot like most of you out there. I didn't even have a Facebook page, but I built my following on YouTube and on Facebook. And you all can do that. I do want to mention, though, if you're new to this, try to have respect for the people that have been in this longer than you. Coming into this and start, bashing other breeders like I've seen some folks do is not a good thing, because that's not the way to do things. And you want to be respected. You don't want to be that outcast crazy person. You know what I mean? But there's, like anything else, there's so many things and there's competition. There's so many things you have to do right, and there's competition. So if you're planning on, making yourself a gecko business, that's exactly what you have to do. And you can't do it, halfway. You got to go all in. And what do you have to add to that, Tim?
Along those lines, it's about what you want to do. As I said, if you want to try to just have fun breeding, you don't have to go crazy and spend $1,000 on a pair of leopard geckos to try your hand at breeding. But if you're the main thing that we see people make the mistake of is maybe they do buy one nice gecko from this breeder, but then they buy a pet store female to breed it to, and they want to get the price that they paid for the expensive one, and it's not going to happen, and that's what's going to do nothing but hurt your reputation. If you want to grow your reputation and you want to be a part of this community, you want to be respected in this community, you want to do everything the right way and the honest way, just as in any other business. And the big mistake that we see a lot of people make is they think that, their first year they can make, or they go to a show and they see a person like Dave selling a gecko for $200, and they think, oh, I'll buy this one from him and I'll get that one for $20 over there. I'll put them together, and next year I'm going to have a table here and I'm going to be selling them for $200, and it doesn't work that way. It'd be nice if it did. It'd be nice if it did. It would. And but I can promise you that since I've been, I haven't bred geckos every single year, but I've been keeping geckos, leopard geckos, continuously from 1992. I have never, to this day, nor has it been a goal of mine to make money doing it, but I have never even come close to even having this hobby pay for itself. Now, I also, have a lot of other animals that I keep, and I have a lot of pet animals that I don't even breed. But just in terms of that, since 1992, I have never once even come close to having my hobby pay for itself.
Yeah, you gave me those beautiful corn snakes for free. What was up with that?
This is you go. You speak to the business side. I'm just telling my experience and the facts. Actually, I was just looking. I was just looking at some corn snakes, saying, "Oh, I got some more for Dave."
Dude, they're beautiful. I love them. I'll take them. Give me some more females. Those are beautiful colors. Yeah, Tim produced some really nice looking. They look like reverse Okeetees. They're just beautiful. All right, let's. We're rocking and rolling tonight. We're getting some good info out. I'm happy with the conversation. All right, let's. Bradley Peltier asks, how often? Oh wait, hold on. Let me do. As a breeder, how to price your gecko? I can't ask as much as Ron Tremper because I am no Ron Tremper. On the other hand, I don't want the person to drive down. I don't want to be the person to drive down the price of geckos. But I can't keep them forever. My wife will kill me. Well, we kind of answered that. But
oh wait, let me just add something to that, Dave. If you are a new breeder And if you are a new breeder and you did, you have some experience, and now you're starting to invest in some of these higher quality animals from reputable breeders, then going to places like Gecko Nation Marketplace and GeckoForums.net, getting your name out there, posting some animals with very high quality pictures and labeling them as what they are. Hey, I bought this awesome pair of tangerines from John at Gecko Boa. They're from Golden Gate. I'm sorry, not Golden Gate. They're from JMG stock and his Blood Tangerine Project, and that way someone comes and not pricing them above what John would price them at, pricing them below what John would price them at, and then if someone really questions, and someone really wants to buy your geckos, they can shoot John an email, and I'm sure John has answered this email in the past. I'm sure he wouldn't want to get it every day, but someone say, hey, did Joe so-and-so buy these geckos from you, last year, and blah, 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 and he shoots him a quick email. Yes. And then that, is building your reputation in the right way. You label them, you bred them together, you did the hard work, and you deserve, obviously you don't have the same reputation that John does, but if you want to build it, that's the right way to go about it.
Right, and it's never too late to start. The only thing that'll hinder you is if you screw up once and you screw somebody over once, or you rip somebody off once, you're done, because it'll be all over Facebook, and that'll set you off on a bad track to begin with. All right, so keep records of your sales, who you're selling to. Try to have a back and forth conversation, even if it's through PM, something that you can save, just in case there's any problem afterwards. I mean, you could sell. I can't remember any issues that I've really had doing this, but even if out of the seller, I mean, you could do everything right and still have a problem with somebody, because out of 100 people that you sell to, one of those people will likely be completely crazy. All right, so if that happens and you encounter that, make sure you have documentation showing that you did everything right, so that when it does come up on Facebook that, so-and-so Psycho Gecko says that, Davis Fine Gecko sucks because of this, at least, I could go back and say, well, hold on a second now. Look at this. This is how it went down. Everything was right. And you're going to have to defend and clear your name. And if you're starting out and if you're competing with other people on your level, you will certainly encounter others that will try to hold you back and try to, I don't know, they may try to affect your business in a negative way. It's competition. It's business. It sucks when you're first learning it, but when you get used to it and you understand it's part of the game, you'll handle it more maturely. In the beginning, it'll upset you, believe me. But it's part of the game. Yeah, like anything else, there's a lot of competition out there. In a perfect world, we would be cooperating, not competing. But the way the system is set up, it forces us to compete in order to get ahead, in order to, in order for businesses to do well and grow and become successful. It's all about, competition. But maybe in the future things won't be that way. All right, let's talk about. Okay, Brad asks, how often do first-time breeder females lay their first clutch as dud eggs? And I've seen this happen quite a bit. It's not something that's epidemic or pandemic. It's quite common, though. It's almost like they got to clean out the pipes, They got to throw a couple that are duds, and then after that, the rest of them are usually good. But if your female starts laying dud after dud after dud, don't pair her with that male anymore. That's it. She's not a good breeder female. And you don't want to keep putting her through that thinking next year will be better, because if she does become egg-bound, you may lose her. And it's better to either keep her as a pet animal or to sell her as a pet animal to someone and make sure the person's informed that this gecko is not for breeding. But, there are a lot of females that will lay duds, Brad. So don't be too nervous unless it happens every single time.
Again,
Right.
you just want, going into that pairing, you just want the female especially to be in optimal condition, and that's the key to starting out on the right foot. And if the first clutch is infertile eggs, then maybe give her a couple days to recover, to eat a couple meals, and then put her back in with the male, and maybe that next pairing will be successful, and very possibly for the rest of the season she'll lay good eggs.
Yeah, right. Okay. Gerard asks, what are some of the best over-the-counter anti-parasite medications to either get rid of or keep them from getting parasites? What do you think, Tim?
Oh, that's another loaded question right there.
I know. That's why I gave it to you.
First of all, leopard geckos are great at being a parasite-free pet. There are very few parasites that you have to worry about with leopard geckos, especially due to the fact that all of the ones in the United States and in most parts of the world that are available are captive bred, not only, for 1 or 2 generations, but for tens or 20s of generations in the past. So you really, and again, buying from a reputable breeder or a reputable pet store, you don't have to worry about those parasites. Prevention is much easier than worrying about what to do if you have them already.
Right.
And the number one thing, if you do have them, is probably to get your gecko to a vet. I know that Ron, and this is something that we probably would have touched on if we had him on tonight. If not, maybe we'll pose this question to him when we reschedule him. He was selling a new product that was an anti-parasite food that you could give to your, I believe you could give to your like cockroaches and crickets to feed before you fed those, to gut load them with this anti-parasite product before you fed them to your geckos. I'm not sure if it's been discontinued or if he still has it, but
I think it was discontinued, or I haven't seen much of it, but I think it was for tortoises.
No, he also had one. I know that he mentioned that it would be possible that you could give it to insects before you fed them to your to your geckos, but that's something we could touch on. The one thing, internal parasite that I know is pretty common in leopard geckos, just because it's common in crickets, is pinworms. But leopard geckos do just fine having these parasites and can live a long, happy life. And if you do go to the vet and do a stool sample, or there are also sources where you could just mail a stool sample to have a test done to see if your animal has parasites. But if it comes up positive for pinworms, it's not something you have to worry about or treat for. And again, just the big thing is keeping your geckos parasite free, quarantining new animals, and again, if you do have an issue come up, or you think you might have an issue, either take the gecko or take the stool sample to a vet. And again, a reputable reptile vet.
Right. And keep this in mind. When you first start out, I'll tell you a story. When I first started out, I was new, I was green, I didn't really know who was who. I didn't know who had the good genetics or who had good reputations. I went to some of the reptile shows in my area, and I bought geckos from a bunch of different breeders. Most of them were excellent geckos, no problems, but I did have issues with a particular source, and it turned out some of those geckos got sick, and none of them survived. And that was partly because I wasn't doing things correctly. I wasn't quarantining each animal. Okay, I would get certain animals because they looked. I made all the common mistakes that not everybody, but a lot of other people make. And I kept certain ones together because they were the same type, but from different breeders. I put them into breeder tubs, and my husbandry was sound. It's just I wasn't doing things right as far as preventative. Okay, and I wound up getting into trouble my first year, where a few of my animals didn't make it, and I believe it was because I bought animals that were already sick from another breeder, and they wound up infecting my others. I never really figured out what the infection was because all those geckos died, and after that I did things completely differently. I only bought from very, very reputable breeders after that, okay, and my cleaning regimen. Gerard asks about cleaning solution. All right, that is your best friend, okay, keeping everything clean. I use straight ammonia with just a little water in it. I know you can't even breathe, and I know it's hard, but my system is crazy, okay? First what I'll do is when I clean my tubs, and I clean them a couple times a year, all right, I'll take them out. I'll pressure wash them, okay? Then I'll spray them down with ammonia, okay, and I'll let them sit. I'll stack them in each other and I'll let them sit like that even overnight, okay? And then after that, I'll scrub them. Actually, before I put the ammonia, I scrub them with antibacterial soap. I scrub the tubs with a plastic brush, okay? Then I rinse them, and then I put the ammonia on overnight, okay? And then after that, I give them a good hose cleaning again, and I let them dry, usually in the sun, or if it's during the wintertime, I'll let them dry, outside or somewhere in the basement. But letting them become completely dry is important because some of these microscopic bacteria and stuff, die when it's dry. The moisture is what helps them breed and keep going. So, and then the final thing that I do now, I do one more step, is I steam clean everything. All right, and I learned that from John Scarborough. I have a steamer, and after I have killed everything with the chemicals, I go over it once with heat, and that steam is hot. So if there's anything left on there, it's gone after that steam cleaning. So these are some of the extremes that I go to, because I don't want to ever have a situation where some kind of crazy illness is spreading through my collection. I don't want a customer to ever come back to me and say, "Oh my God, Dave, I had a gecko from you, and it's sick and this and that." I don't even want to deal with that. I don't even know what that's like, so forget that. And I don't think you guys either want to deal with that. So cleanliness is very important. It's a lot easier to do when you're dealing with rack systems as opposed to tanks, but nonetheless, keep those things clean and quarantine your animals. 90 days may not be always enough to catch everything. You might have to quarantine them for longer. And the easiest thing is don't buy cheap geckos from questionable sources. That's the easiest thing. Save your money for a good quality gecko. The cheap geckos, they're cheap for a reason. Okay, so that's people that really put a lot into this. Have to charge a certain amount for their animals in order to keep going at a certain rate.
There are also some illnesses with reptiles that only appear when the animals are stressed. That the animals can handle whatever it is under their normal conditions, but if they're exposed to some stress, that could come out in them. So
it exasperates the symptoms and stuff.
So don't. Another reason why, even if you are buying a gecko from a reputable source, you still want to quarantine it, because the stress of shipping or the stress of a reptile show could expose something, and you don't want to find out the hard way by just putting everything, putting a new gecko in with your whole collection, and then finding out that it went bad.
Here's the
Go ahead,
tip for you. If you're going to be buying any kind of reptile at a reptile show in the wintertime, bring a little cooler with you. I can't believe these people. I never see people walking into shows with little coolers to keep their animals warm. I mean, you gotta walk in and out of the building in the cold. I mean, it's really cold up here in the Northeast. When I was buying all my stock, I was one of the only people walking around with a cooler in their hand. And I would buy certain animals, and I want to make sure that they get home without catching a respiratory or anything I can do to minimize their stress, and make sure that they get home safe and everything. And these animals, they can experience brief periods of cold with no problem, but why put them through that, especially when they're out already just being at a reptile show? You know what I mean? So you can get these little 6-pack coolers. They're not like hard plastic. They're squishy. You can they have a zipper and stuff like that. If you know you're going to be buying something, or if you think you're going to be buying something at a show and it's really cold, definitely, and get a little pack or something maybe.
And the same thing for the summertime if it's really hot,
right.
Or if you live somewhere further south than where we are, especially with other species of geckos like crested geckos, where they cannot be exposed to the heat. I've seen a vendor sell a gecko, and 15 minutes later, the people are right back there with a dead gecko in a cup because they put it in their 120-degree car as soon as they got in it, and the gecko only lasted a few minutes. And
tell me that story. Did he refund the customer's money? I wouldn't have.
He did replace the gecko and insisted that they be extremely careful with where they placed it. A thing I often do at shows, if I'm just buying one gecko or trading a gecko here or there, a lot of times, whether it's summertime or wintertime, I'll just put it in my pocket. If it's wintertime, I'll put it on an inside pocket, or I'll just even sometimes tuck in my shirt and put it right up next to my skin, so it's exposed to a little bit of warmth. And if it's summertime, I'll put it in my leg pocket on a set of cargo shorts, where it's in the shade, it's cool, and once I get in my car and turn the air conditioner on, it's not going to be I'm not putting it on the dashboard of my car where it's 145 degrees.
Yeah, exactly. All right, looks like Elsa wants to ask a question. I'll bring her on. We're coming to the end of the show. We're probably going to go into a little bit of overtime, so if you guys want to hear the end, call in now before the show ends, and you'll be able to listen to the rest. If you don't call in now, you'll be able to listen to the rest when the show's over and it's available on the podcast. Call number 646-478-5331. Hey, Elsa, what's up?
Hey, the city of Tacoma, where I live, fluoridates their water, so I use bottled water. What do you think of bottled water with electrolytes in it?
Bottled water with electrolytes?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never done that. I guess it's kind of like
I've heard of
Pedialyte.
Well, it's specially formulated with the electrolytes in it.
I've heard of people using that for sick geckos.
Yeah.
Or sick reptiles, but I've never heard of someone using it regularly. Again, if you have a gecko maybe that's stressed out after a full season of breeding or something like that, or a new gecko that's maybe a little skinny, but I wouldn't recommend regularly using it, because it might have sugar or something else that might be negative for the gecko.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks, Elsa. All right.
But that is also another good point, is paying attention to your water. You want to be giving your geckos the optimum conditions, and if you have crappy well water or crappy city water, you might be harming the gecko every time you give it water to drink. And that's, again, another way for parasites or illness to be passed. So when you're sterilizing your tubs, make sure you're sterilizing the water bowls and feed dishes just as well, if not better, than the tub.
I'm very conscious about chemicals, and I think anywhere that we can reduce our exposure to chemicals, we should. And we have, studies show a little bit of chemicals in your water isn't going to hurt you, or a little bit of chemicals in your food isn't going to hurt you. But when you start adding up the chemicals in your food, your water, your hygiene products, whatever else you're doing, it starts adding up. And this goes for our animals too. So I think if we can give them the purest water, the purest food, and eliminate chemicals anywhere we can, we're going to do them a great service, and ourselves. So, we're supposed to feel, we're not supposed to be sick all the time. We're supposed to be healthy and happy. But because we're exposed to all these chemicals and negative things, that's why a lot of us don't feel that way. We don't feel so happy. And this goes for our animals too. So let's do what we can to make them have the best existence that they can in our care. That's how I feel about it. And there's just so many things you can do. But I don't know. I think we covered a lot tonight, Tim. I think we could call it a night and sleep well knowing we did a good job tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, it was another fly by the seat of our pants show that we filled up very quickly.
Yeah, I think we do a good job with these discussion shows. What do you think?
They're very good resources, and as you said, when people ask questions, it's nice to be able to go back and say, you want a long discussion on that topic, go back to this show and listen to it, and it's a lot of knowledge for people that are just getting into this, and whether you're new or experienced, I'm sure there's some things that we posed answers to that made you think and that could help you out down the line.
That's right. And if you have any other topics for shows that we could do, you're free to email us at geckonationradio@gmail.com or message us or comment on the Facebook page, Gecko Nation Radio. So, all right. Well, you know what, Tim? I guess I'll let you go, and we're going to do it again on Sunday with Brian Barczyk. Sound good?
Sounds good. I'll talk to you before that, hopefully, Dave, and we'll iron out some of the stuff we're working on for the future.
Awesome. Sounds good, Tim. I'll talk to you during the week. Thanks, bud.
All right. Good night, everybody.
All right, folks. I'm going to go ahead and play the outro. I'll come back with my closing remarks, and then, I don't know, I'm feeling Bob Marley tonight. What do you think? Want to hear some Bob Marley? Yeah, definitely. Sounds good. All right. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Gecko Nation Radio is a David Fine Gecko's creation and production. You can visit the show's Facebook page at Gecko Nation Radio. I also have a great family-friendly group on Facebook called Gecko Nation. Apply for membership today. The jazz music you heard tonight was generously donated and created by Jeremy Turgeon of J&D Reptiles. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for the great musical pieces. You can check out Jeremy at J&D Reptiles on YouTube and on Facebook. And a very special thank you to our news anchor, graphic designer, and audio tech, Steve Barker. All the graphics, audio sponsor plugs, and music overlays were assembled by Steve. Check out Steve on YouTube at BC Barker Creations. He has some terrific videos for the herp community with amazing geckos and snakes. Please support the U.S. Herpetocultural Alliance and USARK. Gecko Nation Radio is proud to support both of these organizations. Please donate to USARK so that they have the funds needed to legally protect pet owners' rights nationwide. You can donate to the USARK Legal Defense Fund at www.usark.org. If you would also like to learn about advocacy and how you can take action on a state and local level, please subscribe to the U.S. Herpetocultural Alliance newsletter and blog at www.usherp.org.
That's right, folks, and there's some new legislation coming through this year that we all need to be ready for. 2015 is going to be a tough year for the reptile industry as far as states trying to add stuff to the Lacey Act and making, some of our pets deemed dangerous wild animals and trying to ban them so we can't own them anymore. So let's do whatever we can to stave that off and follow USHerp.org. That's the U.S. Herpetocultural Alliance, and also USARC.org. Follow those two sites and what they're the information they're putting out. They'll let you know which states are being affected at the present time. All right, so let's not. We fought them off pretty good last year. Let's make sure we do it again this year. My closing remarks are this. Really, we talked a lot about breeding and genetics and stuff and, getting involved in this. Anybody that's thinking about doing this on a serious level, please don't feel like you have to, be the next Ron Tremper or be the next, Gecko Reptiles in your first year. Definitely invest in the best genetics that you can. Have some fun, experience what it's like to breed the animals, learn what it takes to do it, the costs. There's definitely some hardships. There's definitely a financial investment involved. Learn how to do all that the right way. And if you do that your first year and you feel like it's something that you can do year after year, then at that point you're in a position to make a decision if you really want to make this something serious. All right? I often see a lot of people coming in, they've bought a couple of decent geckos, and they go out on Facebook and they make their page, ABC Geckos, and then they go into groups and they start talking trash about all the other breeders. I mean, how are you gonna make a name for yourself that way? It's just not going to work. Try to be respectful. Respect the people that have come before you, even if some of their opinions differ than yours. Doesn't make them a bad person. And most of all, have fun with this. Okay, this is all about having fun. We don't all do this because it sucks. We do this because it's a lot of fun. All right, and we want others to have fun with it. So keep it fun and keep it respectable. Okay, folks, what you post online and what you show is a representation of us all as exotic animal keepers. All right, so let's be responsible out there. All right, before I play Cool Bob Marley song, I want to thank our sponsors. Our sponsors are awesome. I'm so proud to have these breeders and businesses on board with our show, and these are people that I stand behind 100%. My whole goal is to be able to help people find reputable businesses, people that aren't going to screw you over, that aren't going to rip you off. And none of these businesses here will ever do that to you. Number one, Dale's Bearded Dragons. If you're looking for any kind of reptile supplies, exoterra, heat mats, supplements, cages, misters, foggers, feeders, anything, contact Dale's Bearded Dragons, dalesbeardeddragons.com. If you're going to any of the expos, they do all the shows from Delaware. Actually, they're even going to be doing the Baltimore Repticon now. So all the way from Baltimore to New Hampshire on the East Coast, okay, they pretty much just rule as far as reptile supplies. Make sure you mention Gecko Nation Radio. They're going to give you 10% off, okay? abdragons.com. That's the source for duvia roaches, the best duvia in the country. You guys can check out their auctions on eBay. You guys can follow them on Facebook. Use the code GECKO, all in caps, at checkout. You're going to get 5% off your order every time. That's the standard Gecko Nation Radio discount. All right? If you have any questions, contact Reno at abdragons.com. GeckoBoa.com, Gecko Boa Reptiles. That's Mr. John Scarborough. You know him, you love him. He's one of the best breeders in the game, working on incredible leopard gecko morphs, all kinds of interesting wild types, rare species of geckos that you don't normally see. Just really cool stuff. Check out GeckoBoa.com. Supreme Gecko, Mr. Wally Kern, is doing a lot of work with day geckos, cresties, some leopard geckos, and some really cool obscure species that you don't see a lot. So check out SupremeGecko.com. OhioGecko.com. He runs GeckoForums.net as well. Ohio Gecko is known for awesome tangerines, nice-looking snows, really cool fat tails. He's the one that pioneered that Starburst fat tail morph. If for nothing else, go check out his page. Check that out. That's pretty cool. OhioGecko.com and GeckoForums.net. Rainbow mealworms. If you guys are feeding your your insect-eating reptiles, you're going to want to find the best source for those insects. Rainbow mealworms is the biggest worm farm in the world. They've been doing it since, I think, 1956 or something like that. So they didn't get that big, and they haven't been going that long by doing things wrong. So check out rainbowmealworms.net. Okay? Ask for Jillian, mention Gecko Nation Radio. Okay, if you're at the point where you're breeding and you're shipping animals to customers, you're going to want to find the best place to get your FedEx labels and ship the right way, ship legally through FedEx. The only way to do that is to use a company that has a live animal shipping permit with FedEx. The best company for that is reptilesexpress.com. Check out Reptiles Express. If you're new to shipping, ask for Debbie. She will teach you exactly how to do it. It's really easy, really safe, and make sure you're shipping on good days. You got to check your temps, but she'll teach you how to do that. And once you do it a few times, it's like riding a bike. So reptilesexpress.com. Ron Tremper, leopardgecko.com. Ron Tremper is the godfather of leopard gecko morphs, giving us the bandit, the emerine, tangelos, raptors, eclipse, all kinds of morphs. He's given us more. He's done more for leopard geckos than anybody. Check him out at leopardgecko.com, but also keep in mind the Leopard Gecko Pro app has just been updated, okay? And in order for him to have updated it, he had to change the name slightly. So the new name for the Leopard Gecko Pro app is LG Pro, okay? So check that out in the App Store, LG Pro. All right. Last but not least, Longhorn Geckos. Longhorn Geckos is a collaboration between Daryl Burton and his son, Kate. And they are working on some really nice super tangelos, pastel raptors, all kinds of cool bell stuff, white and yellows, subspecies, just really high-quality morphs. Daryl spared no expense and invested in really good genetics. So check out Longhorn Geckos on Facebook. All right, they'll have a website soon, too. All right, folks, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Thank you, everyone who gave us great feedback in the group and on the page for the topics of discussion tonight. We were able to do a whole show with good stuff, and I think it went really well. So looking forward to doing it again, and looking forward to talking with Brian Barczyk next week about animal bites. That was an overnight success. So tune in next week, folks. Until then, I hope everybody has a good week.